Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
Absolute format is the best way to own this store. Time to empty those wallets and fill those shelves. I can't believe the day has finally arrived. I am the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions, and today it gives me absolute pleasure to give you a first look at the Captain America by Mark Gruenwald Omnibus Volume 1 from Marvel Comics, one of my most wanted Marvel Omnis of all time. So join me. And welcome back, everybody. Now, before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on July 16th or 17th, depending on where you get your books. But we are looking here at the standard edition cover. This is the one by Mike Zeck and will be released everywhere. On the left-hand side is your direct market cover, also supplied by Mike Zeck, but that's only released at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, waltzcomicshop.com, bdcosmos.com, comicsbugle.com, dyingbreedcollectors.com, talesofwonder.com, organicpricebooks.com, instocktrades.com, readcomics.com, and places like that. Everything underneath the dust jacket is the same. So let's bring it back to this amazing cover. And yes, I realize that it's been used before, but when you have both of these amazing characters in this iconic image from the annual, of course you're going to use it. Now, the cover to the Epic Collection has been modernized, like they're using modern colors as opposed to the cover of the Omnibus here. Still such an iconic image. So yes, the stuff in here has been collected in Epic format before, but we are talking about the Omnibus. I just love seeing this. Captain America by Mark Gruenwald. One of my favorite creators. A gentleman that loved comics. Like, I love comics, but that guy lived and breathed comics. I had the pleasure of interviewing his widow, who just talked so fondly of him, and just memories of Mark and being an editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics and then writing comics, and just gone way too soon. It's weird to think about that I'm older now than when he passed away. Like, I'm older than he was when he passed away. Just freaks me out because life isn't fair. Marvel Omnibus Captain America by Mark Gruenwald Volume 1. And there's Steve Rogers right there. And the classic era for the living legend. This is just so amazing to actually have it here. Oh, so awesome. All right, let's look underneath the dust jacket. And you have Gruenwald's Cap gets the treatment it richly deserves. And then a little bio on the creators here. So Mark Gruenwald, Kieran Dwyer, Tom Morgan, and Paul Neary, who we lost. As a matter of fact, they just put that in there. So I wonder, this must have been printed just a couple of months ago because he passed just a few months ago. And then just a little bit about what this run is. Now, these are some of the characters you're going to be seeing through here. And then D-Man making a cover of an omnibus too for the direct market. The Nomad and Rick Jones and Falcon there. I did mention that this is my favorite run time after time. But, you know, when I do overviews, I do try to keep it neutral. But, you know, just bear with me. I don't know how long this overview is going to go, but I'm going to try to trim it down a little bit. All right, so we are going to crack this book open and talk about the stories found in here and check out this wonderful artwork that is found through these very pages. All right, let's go ahead and crack this omnibus open. And I forgot to mention that here are all the different Captain Americas from the different eras on the front board right there. Your white end sheets, the Captain America by Mark Gruenwald title page with two different caps. Who is Captain America? And that is a question you'll be asking yourself a lot. Joe Simon and Jack Kirby creating Captain America and getting the billing right there, and then Captain America by Mark Gruenwald. Now, Mark Gruenwald, of course, taking top billing when it comes to the writers, but there are other writers that helped Mark out, like John Byrne, James DeMatteis, and Joe Duffy, and Bob Layton, David Michelinie, just to name a few. Pencilers are really Paul Neary, Mike Harris, and Kerry Gamble, as well as Kieran Dwyer and Tom Morgan. Those are like your big artists or pencilers in this era. Of course, Paul Neary doing some of the breakdowns later on, and Dennis Janke, Al Williamson, Joe Sinnott, Vince Coletta, John Beatty, just to name a few. Sam De La Rosa's inks are freaking phenomenal through here. As always, Tony DeZuniga. And then you have Ken Fedornikivich and Bob Sharon and Andy Yankis for the colors. Not all of them, of course, because you also have Glynis Oliver and Gregory Wright. Diana Albers, Jim Novak, and Joe Rosen for lettering, as well as others. Just absolutely love seeing this. Captain America by Mark Gruenwald. For the first time, we have Mark Gruenwald's name on an omnibus spine, and that's just so wonderful to me. One day we'll probably get a volume 2 one day, hopefully, and then a Quasar omnibus. That would be awesome. Although I guess Squadron Supreme really was the first, but this is like an ongoing character that. Anyway, what am I saying? Let's get back to this. So here's your table of contents, and table of contents will tell you not only the issue number and where you're going to find it, but also the date that it came out, July 1985, August 1985, and the title of that particular issue. One thing not in the table of contents, though, but is amazing, is this 4-page introduction by Ralph Macchio, who was editor at Marvel Comics, of course, worked over 35 years at Marvel Comics, but was also really good friends with Mark. I love how personal this introduction is. He talks about how smart Mark Gruenwald was, and how he is probably the father of modern comic storytelling. And he wasn't the one that coined that, by the way, but just quoting others. And there's a lot of truth behind that, especially when you think about exactly how Mark saw the comics universe. And I love the little nicknames of Gru and Grunwy and G. Like, all these little nicknames that he keeps calling Mark. Like, you can tell that they were really close friends. And the other thing you can tell is the hijinks that happen in the bullpen. Like, all of the different funny things that they did, all the parties. Like, it just makes me so jealous that I wish I was there working at Marvel Comics at that time, along with these nut jobs. Oh my gosh. It just made it fun. It didn't feel like work. I mean, of course, there was work to be done. You had Jim Shooter in charge of everything. And he talks about his love of Squadron Supreme, predating things like Watchmen. And it is a really wonderful introduction. Doesn't spoil anything. Tells you just a little bit about some of the stories going on in here. All right. So collected in here is Captain America 307 to 350. Captain America Annual number 8, Marvel Fanfare number 29, Amazing Spider-Man 278, Iron Man 228, and then material for Marvel Fanfare 26, 31, and 32, and all of the Scourge subplots, and I'll explain what that is when we talk a little bit about it. So really, this era is broken down into like 3 different big storylines. We are introduced to one of these goofy characters named Madcap at the very beginning. And this is a really interesting first issue for the new writer on Captain America. Now, of course, he had been editing Captain America, but, this is the first time he's writing the character in an ongoing series. So Captain America he's coming back home from fighting Mordred with Captain Britain, and he cannot wait to go and see his lady, Bernie. But this is more of a Nomad story. Now, Nomad during this time is Jack Monroe. He's a character that appeared in the 50s, but he kind of came back in the late 280s run of Captain America and started to becoming this character named Nomad because he wanted to fight crime again. But this is more about him fighting this new, interesting character named Madcap. Madcap has a really goofy and an interesting power, but that doesn't really get resolved. Like, those pages keep coming back. This is the introduction of the Armadillo, which is also the big crossover with the Secret Wars 2, but it's really just one page of the Beyonders showing up. The Armadillo has such a heartbreaking story. Now, something that Mark Gruenwald starts doing is building up the Serpent Society. So you have characters like Anaconda here, and Sidewinder, and Death Adder, just to name a few, and they will play a big part in Captain America's life. This is the story that also concludes the story of Madcap with a more serious tone than the way that the story started. Then we have, finally, the Serpent Society making their moves. So we have characters like I mentioned, Death Adder, but you also have Cottonmouth and the Cobra here, Aspen, of course, the Constrictor, and they're just going on different missions to make superheroes' lives a living hell. And eventually, yes, Anaconda here fights Captain America. And this is when things get interesting. So in issue 311, this is where there's like an android in a barn. And that's not the big part of the story. The big part of the story happens at the beginning with the Constrictor at the hospital. And then this nurse trying to shoot him and kill him and saying, "I am the scourge of all criminals." But Captain America stops her. She jumps out the window. And he checks on the Constrictor. Constrictor's fine. He checks on where the woman is, a nurse. And it turns out this nurse was wearing a costume. So who is she? And that starts building up the Scourge subplots. So again, Serpent Society, the androids. So all these subplots start coming up here. And they're building with something big. We have the first appearance of the Flag Smasher here. And Diamondback and Bushwhacker here are trying to take care of Captain America and Nomad. There's this really sad MODOK story here. Oh, that's right. They're sent off to go to an AIM headquarters and retrieve MODOK. And it's kind of heartbreaking to see MODOK be used like this. You have a crossover with the Squadron Supreme featuring Nighthawk here. And more of the Serpent Society. As well as Porcupine. You have the story of Porcupine who decides to fight for good. And Diamondback making her first appearance here as a villain, but she plays such a big part, especially when you get to like the halfway point of Captain America's stories by Mark Gruenwald. Absolutely, that she plays a huge part in Steve's life. But right now, he's only got eyes for Bernie. This is the Hawkeye story where they trade weapons, and the Armadillo comes back in here. Armadillo, Uncanny Omar talked pretty one day. Armadillo has such a sad story. And then we start seeing some characters from the Hawkeye miniseries show up through here. And that was also written by Mark Gruenwald and drawn by Mark Gruenwald. So, of course, he's going to reuse these characters in a Captain America story that he's writing. And life goes on for Cap. You know, it's not easy being Captain America and holding down a relationship. Here's the Marvel Fanfare issue. So the Marvel Fanfare issues in here that feature Captain America are all collected. Now, let's talk about the Scourge subplots. So this collects the Scourge subplots, and it was an idea that first started by Mark Gruenwald in Iron Man 194 right here with the Enforcer. Some random old lady comes up to him and shoots him and kills him. Justice is served, and they are the Scourge. So the Scourge is a mysterious people, that is going around and wiping out villains in the Marvel Universe. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but you are going to have parts of like The Thing and Avengers through here. And it makes for such an interesting subplot about somebody that's going and hunting supervillains, but like D-list supervillains, not like the good supervillains, right? Like, well, Captain America just fought the Red Skull in the previous arc, so you're not going to go in after the Red Skull. You're going to go after the Human Fly and characters like that, or the Enforcer. I did want to comment on this, because so Marvel Fanfare 29 is in here, but the colors seem a little weird, and this is the only part I noticed. Maybe there was another cover that I noticed some of the scanning on this was a little off. And I want to say, when looking at the Epic collection, I normally do this later on, but I wanted to come back to this in case I forgot it. It looks like the scans are clear and crisp over here, whereas over here, something is off with the coloring. And it's only one of two covers that I've noticed in the omnibus that look like this. More like those 90s colors whenever we have the scans on like Wolverine Omnibus Volume 5. That's what this looks like. But like the color in the background looks fine. It's just mainly the Hulk in the clouds. Whereas over here, you can tell a little bit maybe in the clouds, but not so much the Hulk. And the covers are all in this frame right here with the stars. And yes, this is the awesome splash page. They didn't need to, but it is all of it included in here by John Byrne. Nothing but splash pages. But then, of course, the awesome Captain America story here. And this is all by Norm Brayfogle. And back to our regularly scheduled program with, again, the return of the Scourge, this time pretending to be a taxi driver and taking care of another Serpent Society, while Captain America is taking care of this new villain called the Blue Streak. And Diamondback, again, kind of teaming up with Captain America through here. This issue is amazing, though. Like, let me show you the cover. I remember when I was a kid, I saw this at the comic book store. It was, yes, if Cap can't stop Scourge, every supervillain on this cover will die. Wow, talk about putting a lot of anxiety and pressure on a character. So, we do have the Amazing Spider-Man issue 278 collected in here. I find that it's not just the Scourge pages, because I guess it sets up Scourge a little bit more, that's collected. It's the entire issue that's collected in here. So that's nice. And again, Scourge getting in and out of trouble. This is the annual number 8 with Wolverine, where you have Test 1. And of course, if the robot's going to stop Captain America and Wolverine gets involved, man, that's like a 2-for-1. Mike Zeck applying the artwork there. Still love the ending of that, where Captain America is like, "You'll never be an Avenger." Just wait a few years, Cap. Oh, is this Rem? Yeah, Rem and his mom. Like, Cap is always making nice friends, no matter what. That's something that I loved about, like, Roger Stern's run. Like, characters like Bernie. You know, you have characters that Captain America starts just leaning on. Not superheroes. He's got all of those superheroes friends, right? And they are going to come into play in here. We have the return of the Flag Smasher. And this is Paul Neary still doing the artwork. However, John, I think this is the Vince Coletta doing the finishes on some of these. John Beatty doing the finishes on those. And then that is Captain America by Mike Zeck. Now, something big happens in this issue where Captain America just feels guilty for doing something. And this is the anniversary, or the Marvel Comics anniversary issue. Now we start to meet somebody named John Walker. And John Walker thinks he would make a better Captain America than Steve Rogers. So he takes on the name the Super-Patriot. And Super-Patriot is stronger than Captain America, and definitely a lot more agile and younger. But he's a little more gung-ho than Captain America is. Than Steve Rogers' Captain America, that is. There's the fight against the Slug, and again, teaming up with Nomad, Jack Monroe. This is a really creepy comic where it's the haunting of Skull House. So it's the Red Skull's mansion that is being haunted. And could it really be the Red Skull that is haunting him in his dreams? And we have the Marvel Fanfare issue. This is the Carrie Gamble issue, and Jay DeMatteis writing the stories. And again, it's not just stories by Mark Gruenwald. I love that. Oh, man. The Frogman issue is actually really sweet. I like this issue a lot. I love that ending. I don't want to spoil that in case people haven't read it. And you have Yellow Claw here. Oh, yes! Okay. So this is the return, let's get to the cover because it's an awesome cover, of Dennis Dunphy. That's right. He's back from the pages of The Thing, and that is Demolition Man, or D-Man for sure. I love this. Short, not sure. Daredevil, nope. Wolverine, It's D-Man, baby. That's right, and he becomes like one of these supporting characters for Captain America. He really looks up to Captain America, and I really love D-Man. He's in the freaking cover of the variant edition of this book. So that's all. I never thought D-Man would make a cover of an omnibus. This is the Legion, or no, this is the Ninth, what are they called? The Night Shift. The Night Shift. Yeah, the Night Shift. With the Shroud. Now, Cap and the Shroud haven't seen each other for a long time. Then you have Miss Marvel coming in here. And, of course, she has ties to D-Man because they were both in The Thing. Now, the choice. This is such an awesome... Man, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to talk about every issue. And I'm not going to. I've actually skipped some. I'm kind of giving you the idea of what's happening. Because of Captain America and his beliefs, and the government wanting him to employ himself as a government agent, He's like, no, I don't believe in that. I believe in the American dream and I stand for Americans. I don't want to work for you. And the government's like, hold on now. We paid for that super soldier serum. We paid for that costume and that shield. We paid for everything you are. And you know what? You owe us back taxes too. And I was like, damn, they're going to take Steve Rogers out on back taxes. So that's exactly what happens. In Captain America, Steve Rogers has a decision to make. He has 24 hours to decide whether to stand with the U.S. government or just go rogue, which has happened before, right? It's happened in the past in like 100 issues before this. But now it is a new era. You know, it's the 80s. Meanwhile, John Walker, as the Super-Patriot, is doing superhero stuff and taking care of business. And Captain America, Steve Rogers, decides to leave. So who will be the next Captain America? This is where Valerie Cooper and Henry Gyrich get involved. So they decide to approach John Walker. John, you're going to be the new Captain America. And he's like, okay, well, look, I've got some things that you all can work on, though. I think I'm going to need these things in order for me to be Captain America. So sure enough, he decides to be Captain America. The first thing he does is take care of these agents of the government right here, the Freedom Force. And of course, that is the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Or used to be, but they're reformed now. Now, he will have his own sidekick, and that is Lamar Hoskins, who will be known as Battlestar, and he'll be getting his own costume. So where is Steve then? What happened to Steve Rogers? So for a few issues, we're reading about this guy, John Walker, becoming Captain America. Well, Steve Rogers has like an awakening. He meets this guy that can control the weather named Brother Nature. Yes, I know. And he realizes, going back to the very beginning, remember when I said you're going to be asking yourself a lot, who is Captain America? Issue 307 is titled, Who Am I? And Steve Rogers is still asking himself the question in issue 337. So he finally realizes what he is and who he needs to be. So now we have Nomad coming in with Vagabond there, D-Man, and of course Falcon, his buddy. They're going to get him back. He's out there in the wilderness. Meanwhile, the Serpent Society is, well, they're not really recruiting new members. They kind of recruited themselves. So you have the, what is their names? The Puff Adder and Copperhead and Black Racer, who will eventually join the big Serpent Society. So Captain America decides that, or Steve Rogers, this is so difficult to talk about. Steve Rogers decides, I'm no longer going to be Captain America. John Walker can be Captain America, whatever. He can work for the U.S. government. I'm going to be called the Captain. That's right. I belong to nobody. So he goes by the Captain for a while. There's a crossover with Famine here from Fall of the Mutants, also collected in the Omnibus format. And the Captain is going to have to fight his buddy Iron Man because there's always misunderstandings here. There's a breakout, and Armadillo gets involved. Eventually, John Walker just starts snapping, right? Like, he lets a lot of things slip. And I'm not going to say exactly what makes the government think, you know, maybe we made a mistake. The Serpent Society, even though some of their members have been killed by Scourge, have recruited some new members here. And again, this is when Diamondback actually starts seeing the light side of things. Like, wait a minute, maybe I've been siding with the wrong people. Yeah, Diamondback, you have. So the rest of this is pretty much a fight between the Captain and the new Captain America, and who will end up wearing the Captain America armor. And not armor, but his outfit, the cowl, if you will. And I'm just going to say that there is a big shift in tone. Like, there's a difference in the tone when you have John Walker's Captain America and when you have Steve Rogers as the Captain. John Walker's story gets really dark, and by now you have Kieran Dwyer as the main penciler on the book. That all of it leads into issue 350, which is the clash between the Captain and Captain America. And Mark Grunewald, Kieran Dwyer, Al Milgrom supplying the artwork. And after the main story, there is another story called The Return, but I'm not going to flip through any pages. It is John Byrne drawing and writing that, because I just want people to enjoy that story for what it is. Here's all the women in Captain America's life, and hey, the 6 Captain Americas. Then we get The Return, or rather it's called The Resurrection. And here's Marvel Age covers by Tom Morgan. So here's all of the back matter. Marvel Age articles and interviews. And this is all the Captain America script by Paul Neary, meaning that this is the Marvel Age Assistant Editor's Month right there. So Mark Gruenwald doing that particular story. And this is from Marvel Age Annual number 2. And the comic strips right there. And more of the Marvel Age stuff, the new talent departments, when they were finding new artists for these books. So, we do have, like, some letter pages. So, this is Captain America issue 312's letter pages, devoted itself to discussing a humongous printing error in issue 308, which we chose to correct for its reprint in this omnibus. So, this tells you what the error was in that original issue. So, I wonder why they didn't just collect all of the letter pages. I would have loved to have seen the letter pages collected in here. So, but that is really about the only thing that is missing from this big omnibus. There's that house ad I remember. Scourge, man, just killing everybody. Who was he? Who is he? Who was she? Or her? Or a bunch of those folks, because it could be more than one. There's the poster by Mike Zeck. Original artwork and original covers. And the trade paperbacks right here. And your end sheets. Alright, let's look at 1,336 pages, retailing for $150. Printed at the Donley printer, and there's that big, beautiful eye. The paper stock itself, it's been as thick as it has been lately. Not as thick as it used to be, of course, but very minimal bleed through happening. And as far as the book and the way it lays over, looking at a spread page here with very minimal to no gutter loss at all, really. And that's because of that big, beautiful eye. Finally, it is here. Captain America by Mark Gruenwald, Omnibus Volume 1. And that, as they say, is that. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $200 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if you have picked it up, if you plan on picking it up, if you have the Epic collections, and what your favorite Captain America run is. What other Captain America run would you love to see collected? John Byrne or James DeMatteis? Regardless, leave those comments down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications. Everyone stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.